This is a wonderful opportunity to meet some fabulous ladies. And I am so excited that all of these Kims are in the Zoom space with me on Intensified Life TV. We have, well, you know what? I'm not going to try to tell all the names because they're all named Kim. So let's just start. I want them to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with one of my big sisters. This is Pastor Kim. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let the people know who you are, what you do, where are you?
Well, hello, and thanks, Lakeisha, for this opportunity to be here with all of my sister Kims. And just a little bit about me. I'm a native Houstonian. I'm a wife, an aunt, a mother through marriage. When I married my husband, I inherited two bonus sons who they've given us two beautiful grandchildren, Lincoln and Charlie, who live in California. I'm a pastor, serve as senior pastor along with my husband at a church founded by my precious father, who is in heaven now, who pastored 65 years. And we have assumed leadership there. And I also work in radio as a community relations director for 89.3 KSBJ, a part of the Hope Media Group. So my life is full of ministry. I love people. Just love seeing plans come together for the kingdom of God. And so that's who I am in a nutshell. I love to have fun and I love to travel.
I know you do. Thank you so much for being here. I've got another one of my sisters you need to meet. This is Madam CEO. Come on and tell us about yourself.
Good evening. I am excited about being here. Here Kim, there Kim, everywhere Kim, right? But I'm excited to be here. I too, like Pastor Kim, I am a native Houstonian as well. I have founded Set the Trend Consultants, where we empower, encourage, and equip women and young girls for their next. And so we have different empowerment luncheons. We have prayer breakfasts. We do seminars. And so, yeah, I probably am known to be the petty spiritual one of the group, maybe. I love balance, just like Pastor Kim. I love traveling. I love laughing. I love having fun. But I am serious about the things of Christ. And that's one thing that I hold dear to my heart. I am serious about the things of Christ. So at the end of the day, after every laugh have gone, the word still remains the same. And so I'm excited. Excited to share, excited to hear the stories of my fellow sisters on here. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
My Wheeler sister. Well, let's move on and talk to another Kim. This lady is in a special way. I'll let her talk about that. But this is Sister Kim Turane. Tell us about yourself.
Hello. Oh my God, what a privilege and honor to be on tonight again, just as the other two Kims have mentioned, with our dear sisters rather, that are Kims. But thank you to you as well, Dr. Lakeisha, for the opportunity to share with you on tonight. So I myself am just like Pastor Kim, similar story. I am a wife and first time mommy at 42. Yes. And of course, the same thing, just like Pastor Kim mentioned as well. I too inherited two bonus children from my husband as well. So being a single woman, with no kids, going to 3 kids has definitely been a journey. I am a CEO and founder of several businesses here. Just like the other ladies, I'm a native Houstonian as well and reside here with my husband, where he actually relocated from Virginia. And so we are putting our stakes in the ground and continuing on in the measures of business and ministry as well. And like she mentioned, we met as singles, doing singles ministry. But God changed that story around, not just for me, but for her as well. So many amazing things happening just for me in my life, along with, again, like I said, the biggest one is becoming a first-time mommy. So I look forward to sharing more of that story with the rest of our audience tonight. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, and congratulations. All right, let's get this other Kim in here. She's just like all over social media, doing so many great, great things. I want to hear from you. Tell us who you are, Miss Kim. Roxie.
I know.
Roxie.
Exactly. All that. So hello. I'm Kim Roxie, Kimroxie, and I've been a Kim for a long time, and I'm excited to be on here with the rest of the Kims. But interestingly enough, to my fellow sister Kims, my middle name is Lakeisha. So, we get to have a little Kimberly Lakeisha in the building, So, and that's a little known fact. So, Lakeisha, we'll still bond in some nameship here, okay? So, I'm definitely happy to be here, and that's pretty much the way I would sum up who I am. God created me. I didn't create me, right? And so I believe that, who I am is what I am to you. So many people, to be honest, I think we know each other so differently sometimes. Loretta, my daughter, knows me as the one that she bosses around probably, but she's named after my mother. So I sort of did that to myself. But I am the founder and CEO of Lamique Beauty, which is a clean color cosmetic brand that is bringing non-toxic makeup to the market for all diverse skin tones. And as well as I am married, and I am a sister. I love my siblings, and I am a daughter. And I am a friend, and I just love also being in the role of community and having the hat of being a breast cancer advocate, as well as, to be honest, any issue that affects women, I take up issue with. And so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So here's where I want to start this conversation. First of all, let me just share that behind the scenes, as I was on social media, I realized I know a lot of Kims, and all of these Kims that you will meet through this first edition, the first part of this interview series, doing great things, phenomenal things. But I have a sister who has coined the term Kimpossible. And that's why this is called Mission Kimpossible, because we've all been through some hurts, some challenges, some obstacles. And I thought it would be cool, just based on their names, to pull something together. But I'm sure even if your name is not Kim, you've been through something that was challenging and that probably pulled you in a very hard way, or caused you to dig deeper than you've ever had to dig before, into who God is or who you are, to find strength, to find everything that you needed to keep moving on. And that's what I really want this session to be about. How do we encourage others, even if you are in a very difficult place in life right now, or maybe you are the overcomer and you are already on the other side and you have the testimony. These are stories I'm sure that will bless you. So I'd like to ask one of our Kims, I'm going to call them by their last name since all of them are named Kim, okay? I'm going to ask Turane, tell me a little bit, take a moment and just talk to me about the most challenging phase of your life, the most challenging season that may have seemed impossible in the moment, but you saw God working through you, in you, changing some things.
Awesome. Well, what comes to mind is two, right? And I'll try to make this short and sweet and combo. So the first one I would share, let me give this disclaimer. I'm a realist. So Kim Wells, you said you're the petty one among the group. You my kind of Kim. So nonetheless, the first one I would say, one of the most challenging seasons in my life was, I was married before my current husband, and I married the wrong person. And it was who I chose. It wasn't who God had chosen for me. And so when that dissolved itself and he chose to make a different decision, it was me having to face and do what I call the walk of shame and come back to, family and friends, right? And just to face all of that. And then having to regroup and rebuild and reset. I would say that was probably one of the most challenging seasons of my life. And then secondly, most currently, if I can be real raw and current, and my husband knows, I've expressed it to him, is again going from a single woman who's a mover and shaker, who holds her own, had all of these accomplishments and things. And so marriage wasn't difficult. It was the merging of taking on a whole family unit. And so, you have the children, but you can't forget they got a mama. So, I would say just adjusting to that has had its moment in my own life, and I've had to literally lean and depend on God to help me walk through that with wisdom and not so much pettiness, but just, honestly, wisdom and knowledge, and just to give me how to handle it. Because again, us Kims, we Kimpossible, right? I believe that I could handle anything, right? With God, of course. But this was one that I thought I could handle, not by myself. So that would be the second thing I would say. But again, we more ups than downs. But certainly it has been, as I stated in a post previously, when you see the smiles, know that they have been tested.
Wow. Well, I would say it was stepping into the role that my father had for so many years. My father, in my estimation, and many others, was a spiritual giant, just had such a profound legacy in the city. And to be honest, I don't know if any of his 9 children felt worthy and like we would be able to step into that role and keep that legacy going. And then not long after stepping into the role, the pandemic hit that next year. So the first year was a renovation project. Then the next year is the pandemic. So now not only trying to lead without him, because he was such a rock for all of us. When he passed, it was on the heels of losing 5 people in the congregation with somewhat quick succession. So you're leading while grieving. And so it honestly felt like, and I remember talking to the Lord and saying, Lord, how in the world are we going to step into this role and keep this ministry ascending? How are we going to do that? And he just spoke to my heart and said, one word only. He gave me the word tailwind. And I said, tailwind. So I looked it up, and it basically said a wind blowing from behind. And he said, and I said, okay. He said, do you know what that wind is? And I said, all I could think of is the wind of the Holy Spirit. And he said, that's what it's going to take. Just the wind just ride the tailwind and do what your father did. He said, it's not rocket science. He prayed, he obeyed, he followed. Do that. And you'll see me do for you and Carrie and the ministry what I did for him. And so truly I did. I've seen him steady the ship in a way that I would have never imagined where we would be today, because of only by the amazing grace of God.
Yeah, I'm already in sync with the words that's been spoken already. So when you think about just a difficult season, I'll bring up something a little different because I understand grief very well. My mother's best friend, and my mother passed from metastatic breast cancer. And I have the pleasure of having a blended family myself. But the thing that I want to speak about is how when you could be anointed for an area, but challenged in the same, right? And so I think that, like, for me, being in the beauty industry, and not really in the beauty industry because I loved makeup, or not because I thought I was so pretty and I just want to play in my face. It was really a calling. And so, to be honest, I'm always sort of kind of looking like, when is this season going to be over, right? Like, almost like, is this really what I'm called to do? And so when I was when I discovered and was diagnosed with a form of alopecia that caused hair loss, when, you know, being in an industry that's so, front facing and all about image and all about look, I think that for me, it gave an opportunity for me to sort of show what I believed in my heart, but had to show it up front. And that's what I mean by sometimes that challenge come in and being like, that's good for everybody else, right? But when it happens to you, right? And so for me, dealing with hair loss and really coming into my own self, I think is something that has been a road that I've been sort of traveling and still traveling it. So I remember in the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, like literally in February, I shaved my head because I was just ready just to liberate the situation. And so I shaved my head. It was February, and literally the pandemic hits in March. And they're like, well, COVID can be in your hair. It can be, and I'm like, well, at least I don't have to worry about that. So, I was, we were quarantined and we were, at home, and it, just sort of gave me that time. But I'll say then, this past year, alopecia becoming a household name due to a very famous situation that happened on the Oscars. And it really coming to the light, and me having to just like sort of walk out what that is. And I didn't sign up to become the spokesperson of it, right? But, because the industry I'm in, and because a lot of people are going through a lot of different things. And when people see you show up as yourself, it gives them permission to be themselves. And so it has been the thing that I continue to walk out, but that I want to speak about.
Thank you so much. Just before my sister Wells speaks, I just want to highlight what you said in giving yourself permission to be all of who you are, to show up as you are. So many people struggle with that. First, it's a struggle to even find and be able to identify the true, authentic self, and then to show up in that space, in any space, in that authentic way is a big deal, which is part of the struggle and challenge that many face. It seems impossible when you've had so many people place labels on you or expectations on you, or to Pastor Kim's point, the sense of pressure to fill some huge shoes, to live in legacy or anything like that. I appreciate you just identifying that many times the challenges with us giving ourselves permission. We can be our own worst enemy,
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, Ms. Wells, Madam CEO, tell us.
Yeah, I think that for me, when I was thinking about that, is that the hardest thing, and I've had some hard things, would have been this year in December will be 3 years that my father passed. And so laughing at night and waking up in the morning and he's deceased. So not sick, none of that, just slept away. And I think that was the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with and continue to deal with it, right? Grief is a journey. But I think what I've learned the most about that is that I practice the principles he taught when he was living, and it's to lean on God at all times. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct your path. And I have found comfort in that, starting a gracefully grieving group, knowing that it's okay to cry, it's okay to laugh, it's okay on this journey to have these different emotions. And so I think that probably honestly is the hardest thing that I have had to deal with. I found comfort in meditating. I found comfort in helping others process their grief on this journey. A lot of us don't take time to listen. We're always talking. And I found that those that are grieving sometimes just want someone to listen to them, right? And so I'm encouraged to continue walking in the footsteps of my dad. I'm a true daddy's girl. He was very charismatic in his faith. And I hold on to those principles, everything that he's taught me. And I use that just really to navigate through this. So I've just taken the position I choose every morning to be happy and grateful. I choose to do that. This life is about choices. It's always about the choices you make. I can wake up and choose to be depressed. It doesn't mean that because I make the choice to be happy and to walk in joy that I'm not going to have a bad day. But I condition my mind and I choose to be happy every single day, because if not, grief has a way of coming in, sneaking in, and choking the life out of you. So.
Wow, good word. Whew. If life is about choices, and we have to give ourselves permission. That's a choice, right? We have to give ourselves permission, choose to give ourselves permission to show up in the most authentic way. We can choose to be real and raw, or we can be in denial, self-denial, and suppress things. We even have to choose to follow and allow Holy Spirit to give us what we need, or we can try to do it in our own strength because of whatever connections we have, or if we feel like we just can't, we can choose to have a defeated mentality. I appreciate that tying all of that together makes me think about why it's important for us to think about possibilities instead of the negative all the time. And that with God, anything is possible, right? God is the God of the impossible. I want to ask you now, and just think for me with the moment, what have you learned about yourself during those most troubling, most difficult, challenging times? Give me that special place that you feel maybe things turned for you in your own being, or you learned something. Maybe it was something you didn't know about yourself. Did anything come up? I see you want to jump in here. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so you know what the good part about it is? The one thing that I learned as this is, and I listening to the other Kims as a church girl growing up, the one thing that I learned the most is God is with me. I've always been taught it, but I have personally experienced that he is with me. He is in me. He has not forgotten me. And just because my dad passed away doesn't mean he's a bad God. And so I've learned that, Kim, everything you do, he's right there. It doesn't matter if you don't see him, you don't feel him, because I don't see when, but I feel when, right? And I trust the fact that I feel his presence with me. As church girls, we hear it, but to experience it is totally different. And so, yeah, I'm sorry I jumped in that, Kim.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is a conversation, and I appreciate that the passion of that. I can identify with that because we do say a lot of things as church girls, cliche. We hear a lot of things. We know it in scripture. You can know it intellectually, but to experience it and have it really take hold in your soul and your spirit is definitely life-changing, life-transforming. Who else wants to share if there's anything you learned about yourself that really helped you during the season of your greatest challenge?
Well, I will say that I've learned and accepted that whatever my father needed to pour into me, he did. That evidently I got what I needed. Now, I wouldn't have thought I had it until he was at least 99. He passed at 85, but I recognized that I was more mature in God than I realized I was. It's just that we're going to lean as long as we can. But it's much like Kim Wells is saying, I had to find that place of grace. I truly learned about the grace of God and how God's grace really, is more than sufficient. You know, and I heard a minister say one time that he asked the Lord to cover him until he could get up. And I found myself many days praying that in the midst of feeling like I had so much weight of responsibility and saying, Lord, if you don't cover me, a lot of balls are about to drop. But he is the one. And sometimes they did, but guess who picked them up? He did. So, yeah, so I've just accepted that you know, daddy's girl is a grown woman in God.
Yeah, I would say that what I realize is that God knows what I need before I even know I'm different. And I've been different for a long time. And I'm okay with that. Like, I got a lot of confidence around that, and knowing that my life is so purposeful. That's the reason why I started off saying God created me, that like all my stuff already set up. So really all I'm doing is just following through on the play. And that's just something that I just realized, is that, you know, just who I am. God knows what I need before I need it. Matthew 6:7-8, right? And so I think that that's the thing that I realized, is that there is a higher thought, a higher journey, you know, that I'm not even sometimes aware of until later. And so why even grow anxiety when it's like it's already set up? So that's what I realized.
You know, I want to jump in. And so I hear God is with me. God has me, you know, God is created me, God made. How did that change you though? I want y'all to dig a little deeper in because I sense that when I asked the question, what did you learn about you? You learned about God something. But was there anything that anybody experienced in that season? And even if you're still through that journey, that you feel like maybe was something that had to die, maybe had to change, maybe you had to unlearn, possibly adapt a different process for life. And I say this, or I ask, because I'm curious about when we have to overcome things, sometimes God allows those situations to perfect something in us we weren't even aware of. You know, maybe it's to mature us, as you said, Pastor Kim, daddy's little girl, but she's full grown. And so sometimes when we lean, it's to help us get off the crutches.
Sure.
You know, let go of those props. Go ahead.
Sure. Definitely, I learned the struggle that I have had with accepting God's will for my life. Because it's easy to say that, you know, yes to your will. But there have been times that I wonder what my life would have been like had he allowed me to become an attorney, which is what I thought my life was going to be, or to become some other profession or whatever. But to accept, first of all, to acknowledge the struggle, the struggle that, Lord, there have been times that I have struggled with that, yes, and wondered if I made the right decision in one way or the other. But I've also learned that I fear God too much to go in my own way.
So for me, there was one word for me in that season, and even, you know, just even in the new season, there was one word for me, and that was trust. And just as Kim Wells stated, and Pastor Kim has stated as well, and of course, Roxie, is that we can say a thing because it's cliche-ish. And so I remember being at my lowest point. And I remember, you know, the truth is when things are good, your money is good, your bank account is good, you know, full, health is, you know, all the things are aligned. Do you really trust God? Right? So we say we trust him, but it's not until we're put in a position and then you discover, hey, maybe I don't trust him like I really say, right? Or like I believed. And so for me, it was for that, I thought I had this phenomenal you know, relationship with Father, you know, and I'm like, I trust him because he would always show himself mighty, you know, every single time whenever I needed him to come through. But when I hit that low, y'all, hear me, it was a low. And I just remember him speaking to me, and he said, if you trust me through this season, if you just trust me, I promise you, I'll bring you out. The reward will be greater. And when I tell you, he did it, and he did it quickly, and he did it suddenly. And the recovery time was so short. I'm telling you, I'll never forget. People was like, you like the comeback kid. You know, they had never seen someone bounce back from the type of situation that I had experienced. And so nonetheless, that was my learning, you know, for me. And so that I discovered that maybe I didn't trust them like I thought I did, but I had to learn right in my lowest point. And when I say low, I'm talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches low. Mom and them had to pay a light bill low. I'm talking about low. Never been in that position ever before, but now being placed in a position where I couldn't fend for myself. My intellect couldn't get me out. My, all of my savviness, my ability to talk, to negotiate, the businesswoman, none of that could get me out. Nobody but him. And so that was what I would say for me.
Yeah. And I like to say that, when you ask what changed in you, I think that I've been an entrepreneur my whole adult life. So my confidence is really important. My resilience is really important. So when I say that when I realize that he knows what I need before I need it, that's really important to me because I'm taking risk all the time. So I'm always taking risks. I remember when I had a brick and mortar makeup store. A lot of people might remember that, especially in Houston. It was open for 14 years. I opened it up when I was 21 years old. And I ran it for 14 years. When I decided to close the store because I saw this bigger vision for an e-commerce makeup brand, a beauty tech-enabled makeup brand, it was kind of like, I was sounding like Noah talking about rain coming, right? And and I was saying, no, I'm closing this store because, and I was in Rogues and it looked like it was just fine. And it was. Customers were coming in. I didn't close because it was doing bad. I closed because I had a bigger vision. And so I closed that store and it was basically going to hold me back from the bigger vision that I had. And so I closed that store to go pursue this e-commerce. And again, like, it's something that you can't see. So it's like you're going online. What that mean? Like, how am I going to buy makeup online? And I was poised to launch March of 2020. And then all of a sudden, again, it was like all that building I was doing in 2018, 2019, getting ready for 2020, it showed up that that's exactly what was needed. And so I just say that to say that, like, me knowing that he knows what I need before I need it. The reason why it changed me is because I have to know that, like, to pursue the visions that God give me. If not, I'll get held back trying to know that it's going to work versus having the faith to know that it'll work. So just definitely, I think the theme of what we're talking about is around the trust, is around the God's will and knowing that for our lives, but it's the faith, right? It comes down to faith. And I think that that's the part that I had. And to be honest, the liberation and the freedom around that. Yeah.
I really appreciate all of you sharing these stories, your personal experience, the struggles, what you learned about yourself, even more importantly, what you learned about God as you had to trust at a whole new level. I hear the same thing. I hear the same thing about really stretching your faith and trusting that God is with you, even as you're being guided into new territory. And I love how you reference Noah. It's one of my favorite stories of the Bible. I almost hate to say stories because it was real, but one of my favorite narrations in the scriptures, because it's true. He had never seen rain, but he acted on what God said. And then it proved to be the thing that would save his life. To wrap up tonight, and I know we could spend another hour because I sense that there's a lot more depth in each of you and stories and testimony and experience with God we could learn from. But I'd like for you to just tailor your closing remarks. If you were to leave a word of encouragement for someone who may feel that they are in their impossible situation, or if they have just experienced it, whether they are just entering that season, maybe it is divorce, maybe it is the loss of a loved one, maybe it is stepping out in faith, maybe it's something just totally different. But the point is that it seems like it's an impossible thing to get through. You know, ladies, we get in our feelings sometimes, right? We get really deep in our feelings about what we're going through. But help me encourage someone with that nugget of truth. What is the principle from the Kimpossible experience that you would leave with someone to help them remember that they can make it on the other side? tell me succinctly, how would you encourage someone to know that God is the God of the impossible? And you're the testimony for it. So where do we want to start? Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in and just say, don't give up. Habakkuk 2:3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. It may tarry, but wait for it, because God is faithful. So, I mean, we've heard it before. Delay does not mean denial. So if God has shown you something, he's put something in your heart, no matter how difficult it may be, he's without limit. We're limited, but he's not. So don't give up. That's what I would say.
I would probably tell, that person that you can only see up to the corner, but God can see around it. Our vision is very limited, but God's vision is wide spectrum. He's omnipresent, right? And so don't be afraid of what you cannot see. Everything that you need is in you, and that God is going to give you, and he is going to empower you to make that next step. I would also say, take the leap, make the leap, take the jump, do it, and don't hesitate. Don't worry about making a mistake. You're going to make a mistake because you're not perfect. Take the leap today, not tomorrow. Take the leap today. That's what I would say.
That's good stuff.
And I would say real quickly, I'll let our super bad Miss Roxie in this. I would say two things. One, trust God. Second thing I would say is that preparation is the highest form of faith. So prepare for your next.
And I would say, see yourself in these Kims that are on this screen. When we say Kimpossible, we share it with you. And instead of saying impossible, make it the I'm possible, right? I'm possible. And if you're possible, that means that you have the potential. And there's a possibility that you can do it. And just the fact that there's potential in you around the possibility that you can do it. With God, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. So it's yours.
Woo! I love it. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your stories, sharing your truth, sharing encouragement, sharing ultimately the greatness of God, even through those difficult times, to see you as you are right now and on the other side. And yet I know we still live and we'll have other challenges, but this is something we can hold on to. Thank you so much to each one of you. I am so grateful. Listen, I know that this has been a blessing to you, and I want to encourage you not only to watch it again, but to pass it on. You know someone who can be encouraged by these stories, encouraged by these women who have lived through difficult seasons, found themselves, found the grace, the strength, the power of God. And now they're on the other side to say that you can do it too. Subscribe, like, share, do whatever you have to do to make sure you don't miss another edition of Intensified Life TV with Dr. Lakeisha B.